Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Drama Therapy as Performance. My name is Nisha Sachnani. I'm the director of the graduate program in drama therapy here at New York University, and it's my great pleasure to invite you this evening to witness a live demonstration of drama therapy. Tonight, we will be witnessing a demonstration of psychodrama led by our esteemed faculty member, Nina Garcia. Now, Nina Garcia is very special to us. She's been teaching in the NYU program in drama therapy for over 30 years, and we are just very fortunate to have her lead this demonstration with an extraordinary ensemble this evening. Nina.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening. I'm Nina Garcia, a cisgendered white female whose pronouns are she, her. And for those who are like me, having vision problems, I want to tell you what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a beige blouse and a multicolored green jacket. And I want to tell you a lot about psychodrama. Actually, I want to tell you a little bit about psychodrama and then show you psychodrama. And you'll notice that I'm using these cards. And this is something I've done since childhood. For some reason or another, it helps me feel better to have my cards with me. And I do it for just about every presentation I do, no matter where I'm doing it. So I hope you'll bear with me with that. Psychodrama was developed by Jacob Levy Moreno, whose dates are 1889 to 1974. And Moreno was a psychiatrist. Let me tell you what psychodrama is, and then we'll talk more about Moreno in a moment. Psychodrama is a deep action method in which people enact scenes from their life, their dreams, or their fantasies in order to express previously unexpressed emotions, to gain new insights and action, to practice new and more satisfying behaviors, and to develop or continue to have transpersonal connections. There are a variety of intervention strategies in psychodrama, actually hundreds of them, and hundreds of warm-ups and ways to get started to work in psychodrama. And during the years of 1908 and 1925, Moreno formulated his theories of psychodrama, sociometry, and group psychotherapy. From 1909 to 1911, he played spontaneous theater games with children in the parks, and this was in Vienna. And he discovered at that time the value of spontaneity and creativity. In 1913, he organized a group and worked in groups with sex workers. He dates this as the beginning of group psychotherapy. The experience revealed the power of group, and he discovered that each member of the group is a therapeutic agent of the other. And one other thing I want to mention to you about Moreno in terms of his social activism. When he met a particular woman who was a sex worker, he discovered from speaking to her that the sex workers in Vienna at the time had no rights whatsoever under the law. They couldn't get medical care. They couldn't be in hospitals. They were considered to be non-existent because the society did not want to recognize that they even existed. And Moreno realized, because he was a physician, that even that these non-existent people were giving existent venereal diseases to existent Viennese men. And so he organized a group of lawyers and doctors and found an editor of a newspaper, and collaborating with them, he found a way to get these women medical care and the help that they needed. and helped, obviously, the whole population, not simply these women who absolutely needed to be seen as the wonderful humans that they were, like every other Viennese person.
I'm Karen Moore, she, her, and I am wearing a green jumpsuit and have brown hair.
My name is Herman Sanchez, he, him. I am wearing a blue shirt and black pants.
My name is Linda Condon, and I am using the pronouns she, her, and I'm wearing white shoes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney Bell. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a Black woman with short, curly brown hair, and I'm wearing a lavender top.
My name is John. I'm a white cis male, he, him. I'm wearing a blue shirt and black jeans.
Hi, my name is Lauren Spall Brown. I am she, her, a white woman wearing glasses and a purple tunic.
Hi, all.
Hi.
As you know, I like us to start with a little bit of centering. So that's what we're going to do first. And so if you'll just uncross your legs for the moment, please, and either close your eyes or cast your eyes downward, whichever feels most safe and comfortable. And as you do, simply notice your own breath in your body and what it feels like. And how your body feels in the moment. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to inhale for the count of 4 and to exhale for the count of 6. And we're going to do that so that we can move ourselves into vagal regulation. And at first, I'm going to count for you, and then I'll stop counting, and you can count for yourself. And if you would be kind enough to inhale with your mouth closed, and you can exhale either with your mouth open or your mouth closed. So let's begin inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then do another few inhales and exhales yourselves. And after your next 6, just allow yourself to notice how you're feeling. Stop counting and allow yourself to notice how you're feeling in this moment. And very gently open your eyes and come back to the room and to us. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. So, what we're going to be doing tonight is working with gratitude. And the reason for that is that it's been discovered that when we have gratitude, it helps us to move away from depression, and even anxiety, and besides, it's fun. And so what I was thinking about, and what I'd like you to think about, are people in your life who have helped you over the years, particularly thinking about times in your life where you felt pretty crummy and somebody reached out to you and helped you and really had your back, not just for 2 minutes, but really had your back. They may have had your back for a long time. They may have had your back for a few hours. And it may have been a neighbor. It may have been a family member, maybe somebody who's no longer alive. It may have been somebody you met on the street. It may have been a puppy. It may have been anybody else in your world who you feel really, really supported you and had your back. And when you know who that is, and let me give you a moment to think about that, who that might be. Because hopefully we've had many times in our lives when people have had our back.
Right.
But this is a person who maybe you haven't thanked yet. Let's have it be that you haven't thanked this person yet. And boy, it would be nice to be able to thank them now. So when you think of someone and you know who that is, would you just like wave to me so I know you know? Okay, great, great, terrific. Oh, we're doing great. Okay, so let's everybody stand up. And I'd like you to imagine that that person is somewhere here in this room. That they are here somewhere in our space. Allow yourself to see them, how they're standing or how maybe they're sitting, what it is that they're doing. And when you see the person, would you just let me know you see the person? Great, okay. And then would you walk to that place in the room where you imagine that person to be? Do that now, please. And when you get to them, would you please meld with them and allow yourself to become that person? Take a moment to let yourself become that person. And I'm going to just ask you, who are you?
Danielle.
You're Danielle. Nice to meet you, Danielle. And who are you?
Douglas.
Douglas. It's nice to meet you, Douglas.
You too.
Thank you. And so what I'm going to ask you to do now is to find somebody to talk to. And so Douglas and Danielle might want to talk to each other. Actually, let's find out all the folks.
Hi, I'm Nancy.
Nancy, hi, nice to see you. And you are?
Brian.
Brian. Nice. Thank you for coming, Brian.
I'm Mr. Gaskins.
Mr. Gaskins, okay. And
I'm Jean.
Jean. Oh, man, we've got such great people here. And so would you find somebody to talk to for a moment and say a little bit about yourself to that person? Please do that now.
Oh, I guess I can. All right, Karen. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Nancy.
I'm Mr. Gaskins.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Well,
What is
What are you?
I'm,
the connection with
Oh,
I'm the principal of the Bronx
I'm Brian.
Bronx High
and
School.
John
That's
asked me.
Oh, funny, I'm a
I live
teacher.
You are?
John
Nice
asked
to
me to
meet
come
you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I teach elementary.
yeah.
Oh, I'm a principal of the high school.
I'm not sure. I'm waiting to hear.
Oh, so he hasn't, you don't know what he
Yeah,
I don't
mine's
know.
far
You're
over.
just
But
showing
we've
up.
been close for an awful
gosh, we
long
met
time.
a couple of
Yeah,
years
we
So
met in
in
college.
education.
Yeah,
that's
we're in
fun.
education.
We
right
brought
before
you
the
here
pandemic.
Yeah.
for some
So,
reason, but you don't
How do you know
Yeah.
Karen?
So I was her teacher in fourth grade.
Well, Linda brought me here,
Mhm.
She had some
like you.
know that.
I'm not
going
quite
on
sure
with her
why,
politically,
but
so
I'm here. And
there for her, and I
I
think
hope it's nothing bad.
that's why she called.
And please, if you haven't done it already, please say something about the person who brought you into the room and your relationship with them.
Okay.
How long have you known her?
I've known her for about
I met
34 years.
As a
It's a long time.
And, yeah, it is a long time. And
So your mentor.
I'm her
we're
mentor.
there
very
something that
close
you do?
friends.
Some stuff. So
Yeah.
And she's been there for me and I've been there for her. And
Together.
a lot of other.
Maybe that's why you're
That's
here.
good to
Maybe
hear.
that
So,
is why.
yeah, so how long?
How about
So you
you?
were
It's
Karen's
nice to
friend.
know.
Gosh,
Yeah.
depends.
I've never
Yeah, and I did
Most
connect with her
recently.
a few
About the
times
same
as she
amount
grew
of
up
time,
because
actually, yeah.
I was
Oh,
fortunate
yeah.
enough to also be her
Yeah.
brother,
Long
so
Oh,
And
that's such
she
a.
would
he
come
was
around.
in
and
college
visit.
and,
You
Oh,
still
so
college.
now or-
No, actually, I
So-
haven't heard from
I
her.
moved to, and,
We'll see what they have
But
to
we
tell
you know,
us.
the,
Yeah,
the
tell
thing
us,
about
yeah.
a long.
Will you say the last thing you want to say for now, please, in that role? And release the role?
In a long fashion.
Well, I think it's
You know,
great
it
to know
goes
that
like-
you were a
Right.
support to teachers, as a teacher.
I know,
When
it's
we
kind of
first got
nice to.
together, he was,
Yeah,
he was,
I'm retired.
kind of
but I'm
Oh,
happy
yeah.
to be.
I'm retired as well now.
So
but
have you been in and
Yeah,
out
it
of
stays with you.
each other's life?
mostly in.
And shake the roll off, please. And come back to being yourselves. Okay, and so now is the moment that we're going to ask who might want to be a protagonist. And what we'll do is give you an opportunity to say that thank you that you didn't have an opportunity to say before. And in psychodrama, it's so important for us to satisfy what are called our act hungers. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for someone to do that. And so if you would like to offer to be protagonist, please take a step in. Anybody else?
I don't want to block anyone.
Okay, and so whichever of you would like to speak, speak first, please. And everybody outside, you're listening to hear whose psychodrama will help you the most. Because in psychodrama, as you well know, we don't pick somebody who we think has a really great story, but rather somebody who's going to help us, since that's the way that we can learn the most. And also, that's the way that we won't get pissed off at somebody if they don't do the psychodrama we want them to do.
That's so true.
So, please.
I could start. So my principal, Mr. Gaskins, when I was working in California, and it was a time when my mother-in-law was dying, my dad had died, and it was just a very challenging time. And I was going to do a show with the young people, and he sent me. I came because I didn't know what to do because I was so grief-struck, and he just said, "You have to go home, with your family." But another time, when I was thinking of like passing a kid or not passing a kid, there was just he would say like, if you can't, okay. He would say that only pass anyone or if you really feel it. So he had such integrity. I don't know. And he really was like a father figure to me in a way, the way he embraced me and he just saw me and he sort of took care of me. So I felt I would like to thank him. It was just important to me.
Thanks, Lauren.
Oh, well, I was thinking about my friend who, when I found myself diagnosed with an illness, she showed up for me and had my back. And I don't know if I've adequately thanked her for how much she's done for me. And so I thought, maybe this would be a good time.
Okay. And would each of you place your hands on your heart as a way of signifying your choice of yourself to do this drama? And those on the outside to ask yourself whose drama, will help you the most. And when you know whose drama will help you the most, if you'll just raise your hand so that we're sure everybody's ready to go at the same time. Okay, great. And would you please go and place your hand on the person whose drama will help you the most? Okay. Linda, you will be our protagonist,
So it would seem.
okay? And her mom, would you tell Lauren why you chose her?
Yeah. I think it's great to have a supervisor that sees you and that really validates the work that you do. And I've had great supervisors who've done that for me. And that's what I strive to do as a supervisor, to see other people and to see their strengths and their qualities.
Thanks.
Thank you. And thank you for standing with Linda so she
Thank you.
is not all by herself over here. And if everybody will sit down except for Linda and me.
Hey,
Hi there.
hi.
Okay, let's take a walk.
This is a treat.
Yeah, do a nice walk and talk.
I need to take my shoes off.
Okey doke.
Feels more solid.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Okay, all right. So your friend Jean.
Yes.
So do you want to say a little bit about Jean?
Well, I've known her for about 34 years, I
Oh,
think.
good, long
Good long
friendship.
time,
Mhm.
yeah. And yeah, I was her nanny.
Uh-huh,
And when I was in graduate school,
uh-huh.
and we just became very good friends.
Oh, you were her nanny?
While I was
While you were in graduate school, you were the nanny for
Yeah, I
her.
needed a job.
Uh-huh,
And
okay, yeah,
so-
yeah.
And so, and we became very good friends.
Uh-huh.
And we've been very good friends ever since.
Terrific, terrific. And so it almost sounds like this will be an opportunity for you to thank her here and find a way to thank her after you get out of here too, since she's still your friend, right? Isn't that what you
She's still
said?
my friend.
Yeah,
Yes.
terrific.
And I
Okay.
definitely would like to be able to more freely thank her
Ah,
than I
okay.
have in the past.
okay. So what do you feel has kept you back
I
from?
think I get kind of scared that maybe she'll think it's silly or
Uh-huh.
if I express too much
Uh-huh.
emotion.
Uh-huh.
Or,
So this is a good way to find that out, right? If we do this psychodramatically, you'll find out if she thinks it's silly or not.
yeah. I don't think she'll think it's silly, but I
Ah.
think I pay attention to her cues. And if she starts to feel like overwhelmed a little bit,
You'll
I
forget
back
about your
off.
own cues? Okay.
And I forget about what I want to say.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, then that's going to help when we train somebody to play that role.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have a contract, Linda, yes? Is
Yeah,
to have an
we'll go under
opportunity
that.
to speak to Jean
Mm-hmm.
and to thank her
Mm-hmm.
and to hang in and thank her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some things that you have,
Specifically about how she showed up for me when I got sick.
when you got sick at the first.
And even still till
Oh, okay.
today.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. All righty. So you know what? Let's us stand over here just a little bit
Okay.
so that you can see everybody. So who can play Jean for you? And as you know, in psychodrama, males can play females and females can play males. So whomever you would like to play Jean.
I think John.
Okay, terrific.
Want
And
me over there?
no, we'll use this area as, is it okay to use this area, Linda?
Yeah.
All righty.
So you want
And
me
so-
to get some scarves?
So, yeah, will you get some scarves for her?
Let's see. I'm looking for, there it is, orange.
Okay, so we have an orange scarf and we have a green scarf for Jean.
There you go.
Okay, all righty. And what does this one represent? It represents your
Loyalty.
loyalty. And what does this next one represent?
Your determination.
Your determination.
But you know, there's like
Yeah, maybe there's something else that needs to
just
be there.
this little thing here.
And does she wear this or does she hold
Now,
this?
you kind of hold it. I think it protects you a little bit.
So a little bit of protection.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sometimes I focus in on that and
Oh, not the other stuff. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's helpful to notice, right?
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Okay, so let's reverse roles with her so that John can see how to play Jean. Hi, Jean. Thank you for joining us.
I guess it's good to be here.
You're not sure?
Well, she brought me here,
Oh,
so.
boy. Well, and she's your friend for a long time, right?
Yeah.
So what's the part that's not so hot about being here?
I don't know what she's going to say.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
I like knowing things ahead of time.
Okay. Okay, so what, is there anything that she can do to make it easier to speak to you?
No, I want to keep my heart open.
You want to keep your heart open?
I'd like to.
You'd like to
yes.
keep your heart open, okay. And can she ask you to do that?
That would be helpful.
Okay, all righty, okay. And do you have any questions about how to play that role, John, or do you feel like you see Jean?
How would you describe Linda? Me?
Fun, challenging at times, and lovable and loving, and giving, generous.
Got it?
Thank you, yeah.
Okay, great, let's reverse roles.
And you love me.
So there's a lot of love on both sides here. Let's reverse roles. And where should this scene take place with Jean? Where do you want to have this conversation that you feel is going to be the best place to be able to talk to her about this stuff?
Trying to say hurry up and make up your mind.
Oh, who are you saying that to?
To me,
Oh, so you know what? How about if we do one more little walk around?
okay?
Okay, so. So think about where you would feel safest to have this conversation with her. And it could be anywhere. I mean, you know psychodrama, so it could be in the stars, it could be on a different planet, it could be somewhere on this planet,
I
it could
think,
be anywhere.
I think let's just do it at the park.
At the park, okay.
Okay.
Great. So will you set the scene at the park?
No, I changed my mind.
Okay, where's it going to be?
In my living room.
In your living room. Great, so let's set up
Yeah.
your living room.
I didn't want people at the park to think, anything. But I just want it
Okay.
like that we're facing each other.
Okay, you and Jean are going to face each other.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And you're,
And we're looking at, well, we're in my living room. That's
You're in your
right.
living
For a
room.
minute, I was in the park.
I know, are you sure you don't want to go to the park?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay,
Why don't we start in your living room, and if you want to go to the park, we'll go to the park.
I want to stay in the living room.
okay,
Okay, this is your seat.
okay,
It's a chair. I'm
okay.
sitting over here. There's a TV here.
Okay,
Okay, the TV is over there.
It's off.
it's,
All right.
okay.
Anything
And
else that we should know about that's going to be important for this conversation in terms of
Nothing
the
that's
setting?
important for this
Okay.
conversation.
All righty. Okay,
Now we got to do habit.
So, hi. Tell me about this. You gave me this.
Yeah, let's just hold on to it for now. So I asked you to come over because I wanted to talk to you about I don't know if I've adequately told you what it meant to me or means to me that you are there for me when I am at my worst and you don't turn your back on me
and when I'm most frightened.
and when I'm most scared. You don't give up on me or get shy away. I know you get scared too. But you
I don't know how you do it, but you just.
I
you
don't
just-
know why you do it. I know you love me, but it just mystifies me that you love me that much and that you would stay with me when I'm so miserable and sick and can't even do anything for myself, and you're still there.
Reverse roles.
Glad I didn't put eye makeup on.
And if you'll just repeat the last part.
You're with me when I'm miserable and scared. And I don't know why.
Well, of course. I love you.
Re-
How would I, what kind of friend would I be if I didn't stick with you? You've stuck with me through some hard times.
Reverse roles.
What kind of friend would I be if I didn't stick with you? And you've been there for me.
Isn't it funny that I find it okay for me to be there with you, but I don't find it reasonable for you to be there with me?
And,
That's weird.
and it also feels pretty old.
Yeah, well, I guess those are old voices, yeah. I guess. You know, I'm really grateful to you. I
How
think
come?
because you have shown me what love is. And
In a way that I
in a way that I didn't know, in a
The-
way that
I didn't get up until I met you.
you've been a sister to me.
And I really have needed a good sister, desperately. If that's right, repeat. If not, correct. And anybody else who wants to come up and double, please do.
I definitely needed a sister, even though sometimes I wasn't so sure I wanted one, but I definitely needed one. And I'm just grateful. I just feel like I want you to know and to really receive in your heart how much I appreciate you and how much gratitude I have for the compassion and the love that you have for me.
And reverse roles.
I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and how much compassion and love you've shown me. And I don't think I've ever thanked you enough.
So typically I would make a joke.
Because I feel so
because
uncomfortable.
It feels uncomfortable to receive that. I love you. This is what people who love each other do.
We show up for the good moments and for the bad moments, and I've been there for both.
You know what? I want to tell you something. You taught me how to love. You opened my heart up. Maybe just
And let me tell you how.
because you stuck by me when I felt completely alone. You stayed with me, even though lots of bad things happened. You still stuck with me.
And you didn't abandon me
And
or
you
the
didn't
kids.
abandon me or the kids. You kept pushing your love outward towards me, and it touched my heart. So you taught me how to love. And so maybe you're just receiving back what you gave, but I'm grateful to you too.
And you taught me not to be afraid of this intimacy that we have. I never learned that.
You taught me to feel safer with being authentic and real. And I appreciate that. Although I won't tell you that every day of the week, I'm telling it to you now. And I hope you-
Reverse roles. As much of that as you remember.
You know, you taught me how to love. You taught me how to be there, how to show up.
I hadn't considered that. But you know what? I think you're kind of right.
What's your leg saying now?
Saying, well, damn. That's true. Damn, that's true.
I could make a joke now.
Yeah. I love you.
Is there something that's happening in your world right now that you would like to ask her for a little bit of help with?
You know, it's like I feel like because of how much you've given to me, I don't show up enough for you. Do I show up enough for you?
Reverse roles.
You know, so much you give to me, I don't know if I show up enough for you. Do I show up enough for you?
You show up as much as I'll let you show up.
And if you want to know what would help us to break through this thing a little bit, maybe we can.
If you want to know what would help us be able to have this kind of conversation, it would be the first thing that came to my mind was have a glass of wine first, but it would be take the risk, because I probably won't take it first, so you need to speak up first,
And I really, really need you to know that.
and I need you to know that. Because I'm an extrovert, so I'm out everywhere. So you're going to have to sit me down and maybe over a good meal and just really, tell me, because I'm too busy.
And reverse roles.
I think you would have to take the risk. You would have to pin me down. I'm an extrovert, so I'm here, I'm there. I'll need you to come to me.
Okay. I think I can do that.
I've been there before. I'll be there again.
I know you're not going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You've proven that. But I do want you to know how much you mean to me and how grateful I am. So, yeah.
And if you feel like hell, I want to be there for you,
And
as you have been there for me.
when,
Correct it if it's not right.
and when you feel like hell,
I want you to let me in.
I do want you to let me in, and I'm going to ask you if I can come in Yeah, I'm gonna make some overtures when you feel, instead of waiting for you to ask me. Because you don't wait for me to ask you.
Good. Good.
I think I used to do that. I think I did that more in the past than I do now, so maybe I need to do more of that.
Do you feel more comfortable asking now?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. I think this conversation is helpful to help me know what I need to do.
Linda, does this feel complete?
I think so.
Anything else you need to say to Jean?
Just that I love you and I'm grateful, and I wonder if you're willing to have a hug.
Let's reverse roles and find out.
Oh, damn.
I just want you to know I love you, and could I get a hug?
Absolutely.
And let's reverse roles. That way you get 2 hugs. Woohoo!
Hey.
Oh,
And Linda, you get the last word.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be there for you.
And I'll be there for you too.
Does that feel complete?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to strike the set, and I'm happy to help you do it.
I'll take the scarves back if you guys move the chairs.
And would you like a scarf to help you to de-roll so
Yeah,
that
I
you can
think
get
so.
back to being you? Do you want to pick a color? We can wave it around you. And Linda, do you want to ask somebody specific to help you? Or would you like us to wave this around you, or you want to
No,
wave it around yourself?
this
You
is
want to
good.
wave it around yourself. Okay, terrific.
Hi, John.
Linda, imagine yourself
back.
moving
Hey,
those things.
Karen.
And so, what's your name again?
John,
Okay, good. So far, so good.
so far,
And John,
would you like us to sit?
in a moment, yes, I'm going to ask you to sit next to Linda for a moment, and I'll move over. Actually, no. Can we switch Herman and you for just a moment? But as to complete the getting out of role, a way that you are like Jean and a way that you're not like Jean.
I'm not like Jean. It seemed like super giving, a super generous role. And I don't know if I fully identify with that.
Great, thank you. Okay, all right. And so, do you feel like the role is gone? Okay, and now we'll all share from our own lives. And would you like to start, John? You can. It
No.
seemed like you were ready. Okay, great. So, who would like to share first?
I can share first.
Great.
So Linda, thank you for your work. I definitely, from the start, related because the person I had chose was somebody that was unnecessarily supportive and kind to me during an illness. And I don't feel like I've ever been able to appreciate her. And it was a teacher of mine when I was in 4th grade, so it's not like I can just call her up and say like, hey, thank you, or even know if she is aware that she made an impact on me. So it's helpful to see that even if they don't know necessarily how grateful you are, it still somehow can be relayed in how you are connecting with each other. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, she probably knew in some way that I was very grateful. So
Thank you.
Karen.
Who else is ready to share?
I mean, just the idea of like one of my dearest friends, Carrie. the idea that I can have that relationship and there's still fear, like I doubled, like the fear of really letting that in because of my own past, like not trusting. So when someone shows up, to really be able to accept that is still like a practice for me. So it feels good to be able to say that and to the receiving of it. I've had moments with my friend where I was able to say it, but still what's that place, And I just really love that work because it's so important, and because we're so impermanent, and I want to get that out, as we get older. So as I get older, I want to be able to say those things because it's so rich when I'm due. I'm gonna thank you for your work. I appreciated that.
Thank you for your work, Linda. It actually made me think about a dear friend of mine who's always asking, but why are we friends? Like, why do you love me so much? We're so different. We're so this and that. I don't get why you show up for me. And I felt like no matter, like I could never find the right words or figure out how to make her believe me. And so I'm just reflecting on also then other relationships where we're able to communicate without words and just thinking about the flavor of communication in relationships I've had. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for doing your work, Linda. I think what struck with me is my friendship with my friend and how she gives unconditional love and support. And that's something that I never received in my life as well. And it's fresh and breathtaking to experience that and to know that there's someone there that shows up for you and that will support you and be a cheerleader for you when you need them the most and help ground you when you really need a reality check. And I forever will be grateful for this person in my life. And that's what I got from your drama.
Thank you.
It was great to be part of it. And I identified a lot with what was coming up. Like I said, my friend Brian, I've known for 35 years. And we weren't in touch through all of that. But when we were, it was almost like a very stable vessel on the water. And I just could rely on it when it was watery beneath me. When I lost my partner to AIDS, he was there. Just every moment, it was a nice, solid relationship. And that brought me back to that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I was thinking, I feel blessed that I have many really dear friends who are old friends. I've been my friends for also more than 30 years. And I was thinking about one of my friends who, part of our relationship, I think, is that we don't only tell each other what the heck is going on with us, but we also, somehow or another, every conversation we have a laugh about something. And that actually does seem to help us. And we slog through our misery together also. And we have a laugh. And by the same token, I feel like with this particular person that we've been able to somehow, because we've known each other for so many years, and because we actually did psychodrama together, maybe because of that, we both are at the place where we want to be with each other and we want to tell each other the whole story rather than keeping pieces out and also having a laugh as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moreno said that all the resources are in the group.
Yes.
And here's an example of that. And what a blessing too. when a member of the group can tell us who are leading the group that we made a goof and that we can all survive it is so
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes.
And so the way that we always end, as you know, and thank you for that reminder, is may we be happy, may we be healthy, may we be free from suffering, and may we live our lives with ease. And then for somebody outside this room, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be free from suffering, and may you live your life with ease. And then for all sentient beings on the planet, we could use it. May we all be happy, may we all be healthy, may we all be free from suffering, and may we all live our lives with ease. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Hello, thank you so much for that amazing demonstration. My name is Andrea Cordova McCadney. I am a first-year drama therapy student at NYU. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a mixed-race Puerto Rican woman with white skin and curly hair, and I'm wearing a green shirt and black pants.
Hi, my name is Michael Manzi. I'm a first-year drama therapy student. I'm a cis white male. I use he, him pronouns. I am wearing blue jeans and a sort of Van Gogh-esque floral button-down.
Hi everyone, my name is Ana Maria Vujic. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a first year drama therapy student and I am Croatian and English is my second language. And I am wearing glasses, a black shirt, jeans, and black shoes.
My name is Maria Hodomarska. I'm a faculty member in the program in drama therapy here at NYU. I am a cis white woman. I use she, her pronouns. I'm wearing black. I have long dangling earrings on, and I have tears running down my face right now.
Hi, everybody. Nisha Sachnani. I'm wearing a teal fuzzy sweater and black pants. I use she, her pronouns. And I'm going to pass it over to the rest of the ensemble who introduced themselves in the beginning. But if you could just remind us of your names once more before we get into this conversation.
I'm Nina.
Hello, my name's Herman.
I'm Karen.
I'm Linda.
I'm Whitney.
I'm John.
And I'm Lauren.
So thank you so much again for that rich demonstration. It's going to be such a great resource. So thank you so much. And I just want to get us started with a question for everyone, which is just, what is the experience like of being in a psychodrama group? And how does it differ from being in a traditional talk therapy group?
So for me, it's like coming from a family. I mean, just being able to sit in it taught me how to be in a family. And I always say, like, you know, there's like a crucible, which I was raised in, versus a kaleidoscope. So being able to be in a group and share deeply, but you feel and have everyone step in my roles of my family of origin and really work out, you know, the family of origin stuff that we work out. And it's something beyond, like, it goes very deep because it's a shared experience. It's amazing.
The way I work is the structure is what gives me the freedom. I mean, I just want to bang up against the boundaries, I think. I don't know, when I've directed shows, that's sort of what I use a theme and hang everything on that. And in psychodrama, and to be honest, that was my very first introduction to any form of drama therapy. So the structure really gave me the basis for the freedom that I can do inside that. And I love leaning into that. I love that there is a foundation I can go right back to. And all the techniques, the doubling, the role reversal, the double doubling is really important for me to work.
Yeah, and I would agree. based on my experience in groups as well as leading groups, it just fosters more connection and more safety because everybody has the vulnerability and the compassion of what's going on. And oftentimes when you're in groups that are more talk-based, we're so stuck in the cognitive mindset anyway that we're not really getting the opportunity to work through what we need to emotionally. So psychodrama lets us get that added bonus.
I think as a sort of lovely transition into this next question is something that I actually personally took some time to come around to with psychodrama was this moment at the end when we're all sharing and the protagonist is the only one who doesn't share. And so I'm curious if you could speak to maybe Nina and the rest of the group as well, what that sharing experience is like and the importance of the role of the protagonist in taking that silence.
I'd like to say a little bit first. I want you guys to talk about the importance of sharing, but I want to say something about the protagonist. Zerka Moreno said that after a psychodrama, the protagonist is in the recovery room, the psychodramatic recovery room. And in the same way that if you had had open heart surgery, you wouldn't be looking inside to see what was going on and what people were doing, because it would obviously ruin the surgery. It's the same with psychodrama, that we need time to rest and to take in. And my dear friend and colleague, Dale Buchanan, one time did a psychodrama at a retreat that Zerka had led. And he was the protagonist. And after that, there was a break. And somebody came up, and he was chatting with Zerka. And somebody came up and said to him, "Oh, Dale, I loved when you spoke with your mother." And Dale said, "I never spoke to my mother in this drama." And and he said, "Oh, yes, you did. Yes, you did." And Zerka said, "He never spoke to his mother. I think you might want to get yourself a cup of coffee." That was the end of that. And she and Dale continued to have a conversation. 2 or 3 months later, Dale woke up and said, "Oh my gosh, I had a conversation with my mother. I remember all of it now." But he couldn't, he wasn't ready. He was still recovering from the drama, and it was way too soon to be sharing or even aware, because we sometimes have what's called protagonist amnesia. And so let's ask you guys to say a little bit more about your experience about sharing.
Well, I experienced the protagonist drama as such a gift, and to be able to return that by sharing what got warmed up in me, because there are so many moments in life where someone shares something, but maybe there's not enough space or capacity to even hold those connections. And so it feels very tender to not only connect with myself, but also then be able to express it. And from the role of protagonist, I know that sometimes I have done we always are doing really vulnerable work, right? And sometimes just before that moment of, oh, how are people feeling about what I just did? Is anybody gonna judge me? Should I have said that? Then the sharing comes in, and it's like this great relief to hold the connections, right? To make all of those sociometric connections visible in this space. And it has an embodied feel to it.
And I think too, like, it's wonderful to not be the protagonist and to have other people doing their work, and then you get so much from it. And it's like, oh gosh, maybe I won't have to do that work because I'm getting so much, somebody else is doing it for me. And then it feels like really important in sharing to be able to share back with the protagonist what that meant to me, and as a protagonist, it feels like, are they, like you were saying, Whitney, are they bored to death? Are they, is this, and so when people share back, it's like, oh, good, I'm not alone, good.
We choose, the thing that's another thing with the group is we choose, as a collective, we choose the protagonist. So the fact that I chose, or somebody chose me, or we chose Linda, and that's such an amazing experience, because we as a whole group chose the story that means the most to us, so that we're it's like we're connected to that story. So then when I share, it's about I'm not like being critical about, or you should have done that, or you did this. It's about, this is my experience. This is what I got from what you did.
Right.
So my life's changed when I leave. My sociometry has changed, So it's kind of an amazing, just kind of what Linda just said. But the choosing is, for me, so important. Collective choosing. Yeah.
Well, I think it's just to add on to what Nina was saying, like pairing those things kind of together, it does point to also with the Dale situation, it wasn't the person coming up to share information, it was commenting on it.
Right.
We're not
Right.
in the sharing saying like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for talking to so-and-so. It's saying, it made me reflect that I have similar stuff happening.
And very spontaneously now, I think we heard a lot about sociometry. And that was one of my questions, because I would like you, Nina, to speak more about it. Specifically, why is it important in a group? And what makes psychodrama in a group different from individual psychodrama? And also, you use sociometry in the beginning to see who the protagonist is going to be. And also before that, we saw a lot of structure, although it might not seem to someone who doesn't know what psychodrama is what happened, but John, you spoke about it as well, how structure is important. So we saw centering and we saw warm up and then sociometrical choices, and then we saw you doing walk and talk, establishing the contract, and then we saw role training, and then different interventions you had. And I would like you to speak a little bit about that, specifically about sociometry, and then I think we can get back to other interventions also.
So Moreno pretty much said sociometry, 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 that is the most important thing. And just to say what sociometry is, it's the measurements of social choices in terms of measurement, the metric part, but it also is about making those choices. And every time we make a choice, we make the choice based on some criterion. Do we make it based on somebody's short or somebody's tall? Do we make it based on, and let me talk a little bit about that. So there are levels of choice. So there are choices of proximity. So do I only talk to Nisha because she is right next to me and I don't want to talk to anybody else because they're too far away and I'm scared? Okay? And so that would be proximity. Or I only talk to my neighbors because they're right next to me, so proximity. The other is category, the choice of category. So we choose people because I only go out with tall people, or I only date short people, or I only date people with blue eyes, or things like that. Those are categories that we have. Or I only talk to people who are of my own religion, or my own political background. And so those are categories. And so then there is a choice that's called the telic choice of tele, which has to do with us seeing each other eye to eye, face to face, and opening our hearts to each other so that we can see the full person inside and not just sort of pieces of the person. So that's the basis of sociometry, is about how we make those choices. And it's absolutely fundamental to the work and fundamental to what's called societry also, which has to do with the healing of the entire world, which is what Moreno felt was tremendously, tremendously important. And so in every psychodrama session, and actually when we're psychodramatists, we're aware of sociometry, actively aware of sociometry. When I was at the hotel that I stayed at, we got into the elevator. And so there was an option there to say hello to people in the elevator and to ask them how their day was, or to not say a word and just look forward. Well, it was much more fun to say hello and make a connection, and very sweet. And so when we make those connections, it helps us, it helps the other, and it helps the world to be more connected. So that's, believe it or not, the short version of sociometry. Did I answer what you needed?
You did, and and also, how is sociometry important for you for this specific group and this topic?
I'm confused, I'm
Do-
sorry.
Having the group choose a protagonist,
Oh,
how
I
was it
see.
important for you for the work
Ah,
within the group?
Okay, thank you, I misunderstood. Or I just didn't understand. So, one of the reasons that we ask people to choose the person whose drama would help them the most is that if I'm just choosing that person because that way I don't have to be the protagonist, and I think that they need it the most,
Right.
then I'm going to be very irritated if they don't do the psychodrama I want them to do. And so that doesn't join us together. In fact, what it does is to separate us instead. And so the question is about what our connections are with ourselves and what connections we're noticing with somebody else, and how we complete that feedback loop. And so that's the reason for in the choosing of the protagonist that we ask people to choose the person whose drama will help them the most. And so that, as Lauren said before, then we feel like we have something to share with the person also. And we're rooting for them because they're us. They're standing for us. And so that we maybe can put our foot in the water next time. Did that answer it?
I have a comment and then maybe a question. But we were talking about you in class the other night. And it happened again tonight for me. But anytime, Nina, I see you do a walk and talk, I'm aware of the sacred nature of the work as you view it. And I see people walking with you into the underworld, the place where catharsis is possible, where the telic connections are possible. But you hold people in an exquisitely sacred space.
Thank you.
Thank you. And my question is, could you talk a little bit about that, about catharsis and about the difference between talking about my mother and putting my mother in the chair?
So we really do have to feel safe enough to be willing to have a catharsis. That's kind of the first thing. And so the value of the warm-ups are to help us to feel safe enough with each other, not 100% safe, because we're never 100% safe in the world, but safe enough. And so in a group, obviously, we're doing from the first time we meet people to when we're seeing people another time and another time and another time, we're hoping to build more and more and more safety and a feeling of a fabric of trust and caring among people. And one of the things that is very precious to me about psychodrama is that I still have friends who I started when I started in training in psychodrama, and they are in the heart of my social atom, in the heart of among the closest people to me in my world. And so I don't know that answered your question. Say more, please.
I was just hoping you could talk a little bit about the purpose of catharsis.
Oh, catharsis.
In psychodrama.
Lordy, how did I get over to back to sociometry? Phew, it's all about sociometry. Okay, so catharsis. So there is a catharsis of abreaction, which is when we're just, sort of having that feeling that we're just expressing. And so sometimes when we're in action, we're expressing it the first time, the second time, the third time. And then sometimes there's also what's called the catharsis of integration. And the catharsis of integration occurs when not only are we expressing something, but at the same time we're having an insight that's a powerful insight that shifts us so that we are never the same again, in a good way as opposed to in a bad way. And so there are some psychodramas where the catharsis is a small catharsis. And mostly the psychodrama is about insight for the person. Or mostly the person feels like, gosh, I have to, I recently worked with someone who was having to give a deposition for something. And so for that person, they were not interested in a catharsis. They were interested in role training. And so for us as therapists, it's also a choice about when we do have a catharsis, and which catharsis, which kind of catharsis we're going to try to help the client to have and the group to have at a particular time. Did that answer it? Thank you.
I'd like to pick up on the other part of Maria's question, but open it up to the group in terms of what you think the difference is between talking about a close person, talking about the other, like a friend or one's mother, and playing one's mother.
Experiencing it from the other person's point of view, it's like, oh, you know, I wouldn't get that from talking about it.
And leads to new insights.
Normally I wouldn't talk about this right away, but I want to say this, is that the value of that drama for me was about all of a sudden realizing that I was being given back what I'd already given. And that was powerful to realize that. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that somehow. And normally we don't talk about what we just did, but I broke the rule because it's really, really important. I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't been in that role. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, how would I have gotten that if I was talking? Yeah.
Yeah, and being able to put yourself in the other person's role, that leads to new insights and perspectives. Kind of just what Linda had.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the gifts of psychodrama is being able to have that embodied action that happens in the here and now. For me, and like I imagine for many of us, I can get stuck inside of the stories in my head. And that's also part of the reason why for the walk and talk, you're actually moving, you're getting into your body so that your emotions can flow, right? And so being able to have that embodied moment right here, right now, instead of being stuck in a story, there's an opportunity to rewrite it in the moment while feeling that support of the group. And maybe there are some things that we might not be ready to say face to face to another person, or maybe we are, again, just getting lost in some of it, but being in the moment, things get to shift.
I think one of the ways I explain it often to people is we have our brain knows something and our heart knows something, and they don't always get along. And talk therapy, I'm only working with my brain, and something magical happens with psychodrama and other like actionable steps that my head and my heart finally align. So I'm going to actually be able to move forward with it instead of just kind of continuing to have that dichotomy going on.
I have a question for Nisha and Nina. Why do we teach psychodrama in drama therapy programs?
Yeah, why?
Why do we teach psychodrama in drama therapy programs? Well, as this is for posterity, and prosperity.
Both of those.
Both of them. Why do we teach psychodrama and drama therapy programs? I think there's a history to talk about here with regards to the emergence of the field of drama therapy and its inspiration from Moreno and others who had been working to connect theater and therapy.
Yes.
And so it feels fitting to include psychodrama in the training of drama therapists. And the other way I might answer that is to think about the definition of drama therapy, which is the intentional use of theater-based processes to facilitate therapeutic change. And this is a theater-based process that does that. And so there's, I know, a great history and a present debate around, well, where do we situate psychodrama within drama therapy, I don't feel that caught up in it. I think we've got a tremendously powerful theater-based approach, and it clearly facilitates therapeutic aims, and therefore drama therapists in training must be introduced to it and honor the history as well.
You know, what I was thinking about, Nisha, is how psychodrama got to NYU. So Robert Landy, who of course was the first person who was the chair of the department, was a drama therapist. But guess what? He was in a psychodrama group himself. And so he felt like, wow, gee whiz, you know what maybe we should have both of these things here at NYU. And so he brought psychodrama because, as everything that you said is absolutely accurate, they're ways of expressing dramatically. And we have scarves that come from drama therapy, right? The first time I ever saw the use of scarves was with Emily Day at a drama therapy conference out in San Francisco. And I've been using them for decades ever since.
Honoring the history
Yes.
of how psychodrama arrived in drama therapy, specifically here at NYU.
Yes.
And how we relate to each other in the field. Well, we are closing in on time, but I do want to just check to see if there's anybody here who has a comment or a question. There's one right in the front.
I was also thinking about the walk and the talk because in the first semester, I feel like the directing starting from the after the role training, but this semester I feel like the directing starting from the walk and talk. So you trying to make the contract with the client during walk and talk, but is there any moment you feel like the client talking the trauma is maybe the trauma is too heavy and it's not appropriate to do the whole thing, and how you gonna deal at the moment?
The only thing I can say to you is that has not happened to me. And what I mean by that is that what you're talking about, I think, is when people are overheated in terms of doing a drama. And so there are techniques that we can use to help a person to calm down a little bit so that they might be ready to do that specific drama. But there are also things that we could do to say, well, you know what, if this is feeling too much for you today, what might be a piece of this that we can do, right? Because with all of our lives, Moreno said that for every drama that we do, there are another 500 dramas that we could do. And so there are an endless number of dramas. I mean, even thinking about walking down the street or walking in the park, somebody knocks into you. That could be a psychodrama. Or somebody says something sweet. That could be a psychodrama. And so when someone comes to us, if a client comes to us who's overheated, we don't do the drama that they're not ready to do. We work to help them to do the drama that they are ready to do. Does that answer it well enough?
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for a beautiful presentation. I was struck tonight by doubling, by how beautifully doubling was used, and specifically how doubling was encouraged to come also from the group and not only from the therapist. I was wondering if you could speak a bit about how the therapist teaches the group to double for each other and how they incorporate the whole group in the therapy.
Thank you for asking that. If it's a new group, clearly I would be the first person to double because the clients don't even know what it is. And I would explain to them what that is. And we would continue to do dramas for a little while. I don't mean 1 session, 2 sessions, maybe 3 sessions. But then I might also say, who thinks they know, if Betty is the protagonist, who thinks they know what Betty's feeling right now? And somebody might raise their hand. And maybe they're not ready to say it, to get up and say it, but maybe they can say it from their seat. And so we ask them to say that as they would say it if they were Betty. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling sad, whatever that is. And so that helps the person to warm up to actually standing up to do the work, to be the double. And I was just thinking about Dan Tomasulo's work. He did these magnificent videos on working with developmentally disabled adults. And they did sociodramas, and mostly sociodramas, but they did some psychodramas as well. And when they did them, the people would, from where they were sitting, say, tell them this, or say that, or whatever. It was just absolutely beautiful. And that was really, it was a doubling statement that they were making. And they learned how to double, not the first session, but little by little. And the beautiful power for group members of being able to double, particularly if we're working with people who are relatively low functioning, is, wow, I was right. I knew what my fellow group member felt. I was right. And so it helps the person, it helps all of us, I think, when we double accurately. It helps us to really get that we are in tune, and we can be in tune with someone. Did that answer it well enough, Ofer?
Could you also, though, talk about the power of not doubling accurately?
Go ahead, Whitney.
I have a thought about learning how to know when you double, and then maybe Nina can elaborate on that question. I want to speak to a moment when I had a double for Linda, and I just was able to check in with myself, because you're always doubling in service of the protagonist. So even though I was like, this fits, and I saw that Linda was going in a different direction. So that's the moment to say, okay, this is not about me and my ego. It doesn't matter how great the double is, and to be able to have that willingness to step back, so that we're not overpowering the voice of the protagonist, that they get their space to express.
And I also think there's no such thing as wrong doubling, because even if you double something that's not accurate, then the director just says, okay, well then what is it? And then you get closer to what it is. So no doubling.
Repeat it or change it. And that is so incredibly important, because I believe all of us in our lives have had times where people have told us, this is what you think, and this is what you're supposed to do, and which is very different than the double who is in a certain sense putting words into your mouth. But you can say, yep, that's right, or nope, it's not right. And for clients who are relatively low functioning, how wonderful to be able to say, no. And then we say, okay, tell us what is right. Because even that clarification is so tremendously important.
Right.
And even as a protagonist, to know the room is supporting you, and that they're all engaged, right or wrong, it almost doesn't matter, because you can change it. But to have that support of the room is very important for me as a protagonist.
Yeah. I think also as a protagonist, I've noticed there may be times where I'm too stuck and can't identify my words. And even if I get a incorrect or way off double, I'm like, well, no, it's not that, it's this. So it does help you lead into what it truly is. And so
I'm thinking about the auxiliary ego and the responsibility of playing that role, and also the need for spontaneity, but at the same time, the need to still be in service of the protagonist. And so in the psychodrama, we saw John, in playing the role of the auxiliary ego, at times, waiting for the role reversal and repeating back the last thing. And then at times, and of course there's small spontaneous decisions even in that, but then there were moments of more explicit spontaneous decisions. And I was just curious about reflections around that and around spontaneity and also boundaries within that spontaneity.
So one of the rules of thumb is that for the first few role reversals, you repeat, if you're the auxiliary, you repeat exactly what the protagonist has said, or the last few words that the protagonist has said, because what you're trying to do is kind of reroute things where people are, in which role they're in. And then after a while, as you start to really feel comfortable in the role and you start to get what's going on, that's the time to be spontaneous and to say other things that might be coming up for you when you're playing the role, because you were chosen for a reason, of course. And by the same token, we don't want somebody to be what's called pathologically spontaneous, and as soon as they get in the role, that they're taking it over and they're making a play out of it, because it is clearly not a play. And so that's the reason for, at first, just taking the role exactly as described, and then as you go on, allowing more spontaneity in response.
Well, I believe that's all the time we have for today. Am I correct? Yeah. So we want to thank you all for being here. Thank you to Nina Garcia. Thank you, Nisha Sajnani and Maria Hodomarska. Thank you, cast.